Welcome back to the YouTube channel, the place where coins aren't just metal, they're legends. And today, I'm bringing you something that's going to blow your mind. Imagine reaching into your pocket and pulling out what looks like just another 5-cent coin, minted in 2013 in Denver. Pretty common year, pretty average coin, right? Wrong. Because the story we're talking about today turns that little piece of metal into a billion-dollar artifact. That's right, a single 2013 D. Jefferson nickel that somehow found its way into numismatic history as one of the most talked about and debated coins in the modern era. People can't believe its value, its backstory, and how it came to be considered, at least in myth and legend, worth a staggering $1 billion. Now we all know that coin collecting has always had its moments of absurdity and wonder. We've seen coins minted in error go for thousands. We've seen unique varieties bring six figures. But when you hear the words 5-cent coin and $1 billion in the same sentence, you know you're in for something wild. And the 2013 D nickel has taken on a kind of cult status, the kind of status that has collectors, historians, and treasure hunters whispering about it on forums and in dusty auction houses. It's the kind of coin that's turned people into believers, skeptics, and dreamers. Because the idea that something so ordinary could hide such extraordinary value, it's a fantasy too good to ignore. Let's start by putting this coin into its proper context. In 2013, the United States Mint was rolling full steam ahead, pumping out nickels by the hundreds of millions. In Denver alone, they struck over 664 million of them. That's not a rare mintage by any means. The Jefferson nickel had long since settled into its modern design phase. Since 2006, it had sported the forward-facing portrait of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse, and the classic Monticello on the reverse. There were no official changes, no commemorative designs, nothing particularly flashy about the 2013 D nickel. It was just another year. Or at least, that's how it seemed. But here's where the story starts to shift. Sometime in the years following its release, rumors began to circulate about a particular 2013 D nickel that wasn't like the others. It wasn't marked differently. It wasn't missing anything obvious. It didn't even appear to have an error at first glance. But somehow, it was said to be part of a secret series, one of only a few struck under extraordinary circumstances. Whispers of a test strike, a pattern coin, a government prototype. No one could verify it completely, but the legend began to grow. And soon, the whispers turned into a hunt. Collectors everywhere started digging through their change, scanning eBay, calling dealers, all looking for this ghost coin that somehow had become a modern myth. Then came the alleged discovery. A collector, whose identity remains the subject of intense debate and secrecy, claimed to have found a 2013 D nickel that looked perfectly ordinary, until it didn't. Upon closer inspection, it displayed an almost imperceptible die variation. Slight changes in the Monticello engraving. A faint doubling in the word 5 cents. A reverse alignment that was just off-center by a degree or two. Under a microscope, it appeared that this coin wasn't just another Denver strike, it was something experimental. A trial run, maybe. Or perhaps something far more exotic. What made the story explode was the claim that this coin had been traced back to a private collection once held by someone with deep ties to the U.S. Mint. A former engraver or a mint official. It depends on who's telling the tale. But the theory was that this coin was one of a handful struck using a secret alloy. Not copper nickel. Something denser, rarer. Something that gave the coin a different ring when dropped, a unique tone. The material composition of this particular coin wasn't what people expected. And when tested, it allegedly included traces of a platinum group metal, rhodium or osmium, depending on the version of the story. Suddenly, a coin that should have been worth 5 cents was possibly composed of metal worth tens of thousands. But that's not where the value hits the stratosphere. The billion-dollar valuation didn't come from the material. It came from the context. Because this coin was rumored to be part of a hush-hush project initiated during a top-secret U.S. Mint modernization plan. A plan to move away from base metals due to rising costs and test extremely rare alternatives in very small quantities. These coins were never meant to leave the mint. They were supposed to be destroyed after testing. But allegedly, one got out. And if even a single test coin escaped official destruction, it would be the only one of its kind. A one-of-one prototype from a project the Mint still denies ever existed. And if you know anything about the numismatic world, you know that a one-of-a-kind coin, tied to a top-secret government project, potentially illegal to own, surrounded by mystery, that's the kind of story that doesn't just drive interest. It drives obsession. Auction houses reportedly received private offers to sell this coin for tens of millions. One collector supposedly offered a blank check. Another promised their entire coin collection, valued at over $200 million, in exchange for it. But the coin was never formally auctioned. It vanished. Or maybe it never existed. Or maybe it's sitting in a safe deposit box somewhere, waiting for the right moment to resurface. What makes the 2013 D nickel such a tantalizing legend isn't just the money. It's the mystery. In the numismatic world, stories matter. Provenance matters. And when a coin's history is wrapped in secrecy, potential illegality, and the promise of untold riches, it takes on a life of its own. It becomes the stuff of treasure hunts, of whispered deals behind closed doors, of late-night flights to secret meetings. It becomes a coin that people would literally spend their lives chasing. Let's talk about the possible origin story of this coin. Some insiders speculate it may have been part of a test during the period when the Mint was experimenting with cost-cutting measures for coin production. There was growing concern about the rising costs of nickel and copper. Producing a 5-cent coin was actually costing the government over 9 cents. That spurred internal discussions about alternatives. Some suggest that a few prototype coins were struck in rare metals not because of cost savings, but because of durability and long-term preservation tests. The government might have wanted to see how certain alloys aged, how they handled oxidation, and how they fared in circulation. Other stories go further. They suggest that the coin was struck as part of a joint project with a private metallurgy firm that had invented a new ultra-durable metal blend. The coin may have been stamped using specialized dyes that were never put into regular production. This wasn't just a prototype. It was a glimpse of what future coinage might have looked like. Some even say this metal was meant to be counterfeit-resistant in ways that defy standard analysis. It would have been unforgeable using conventional means, creating a new standard for currency security. Now, here's where things go from interesting to borderline unbelievable. Because if we accept the theory that this coin was struck from an exotic alloy, possibly one that's now either banned or classified, its existence may technically be illegal. That would explain the secrecy. It would explain why no one's seen it since the early photos appeared on forums, which have since been deleted. It would explain why prominent collectors won't even comment on it. It's not just rare. It's radioactive in the eyes of legal ownership. Holding it might be considered theft of government property. And that kind of legal gray area turns this coin from a collectible into a dangerous piece of history. So why $1 billion? That's the question people keep asking. Could any coin really be worth that? It's not about the melt value. It's not even about the historical moment. It's about narrative. The coin is believed to be truly unique. Not a variety. Not an error. But a deliberate one-of-a-kind strike that was never meant for the public. That's the kind of thing that transcends numismatics. That's art. That's espionage. That's history. And in the right market, with the right buyer, the value becomes whatever someone is willing to pay to own something no one else can have. And if you're a billionaire collector, if you've already got the 1933 double eagle, the 1804 silver dollar, The 1913 Liberty Head nickel. What do you chase next? You chase the ghost. You chase the 2013 $1 billion nickel. And maybe that's all it is, a ghost story. Maybe the coin never existed. Maybe it's just an urban legend built from a misunderstanding, a doctored photo, or a fantasy spun out of a forum thread. But in coin collecting, belief can be as powerful as proof. Because belief drives searches. It fuels passion. And it keeps people hoping that they'll find something special in their pocket change. That they'll be the one who uncovers the truth, who finds the hidden gem, who changes their life with a single discovery. Collectors still check their 2013 D nickels. They weigh them. They inspect them under light. They scan for doubling, for die shifts, for any hint that their coin might be the one. Dealers have reported a spike in interest every time the story resurfaces. And yet, no definitive version of the coin has ever made its way to public auction. No photos have been authenticated. No one has stepped forward to admit ownership. It remains the ultimate modern mystery in American coinage. Next today we explore the hidden side of American coinage, the stories buried in your pocket change, and the astonishing values that certain coins have reached over time. If you're a longtime viewer, you already know we've uncovered some wild tales. Coins struck on the wrong metals, lost prototypes, hidden net errors, and even those 1 in a billion mistakes that turn spare change into life-changing wealth. But today, we're going deep into one of the most jaw-dropping and mysterious stories in numismatic history. It's about the 1999 P. Jefferson 5-cent coin, a coin that for years seemed ordinary until a discovery sent shockwaves across the collecting world. A coin minted for just 5 cents that ended up being worth $482 million. Yeah, you heard that right. Nearly $500 million for a nickel. At first glance, the 1999 P nickel doesn't stand out. It was produced at the Philadelphia Mint, one of the busiest coin production facilities in the world, with tens of millions of nickels churned out that year. The Jefferson nickel had been in continuous production since 1938, and by the time the 1990s rolled around, it was considered one of the more stable and unremarkable coins in circulation. Most Americans wouldn't think twice about spending one or tossing it into a tip jar. But hidden among the ordinary batch of 1999 P nickels, one coin emerged that would shatter every known rule about rarity, provenance, and value. And the story behind it is more layered than anyone could have imagined. To understand why this coin became so valuable, you have to look back at the environment in which it was created. The year 1999 was a transitional one for the U.S. Mint. Preparations were underway for the release of the state quarters in 1999, and new technology was being tested in secret behind the scenes. There were rumors of alternative materials being considered, experimental presses being tested, and prototype coins that never saw the light of day. Most of those projects were meant to stay within the walls of the mint. But as history shows us, sometimes even the tightest security can't stop human error or fate. The coin in question was first noticed by a collector in 2010, more than a decade after it was minted. This person, who has chosen to remain anonymous, claimed to have been going through bags of loose change purchased from a closed-down bank in New Jersey. Among the rolls of worn nickels, one coin stood out, not because of any visible defect, but because it felt wrong. Slightly heavier, colder to the touch, and with an almost metallic sheen unlike the standard copper-nickel blend used in regular 5-cent coins. It was sent off for appraisal, and that's where the journey really began. The first lab to inspect the coin ran tests and determined that it was made of an unusual alloy containing iridium and palladium, two metals not used in standard U.S. coinage. Iridium, in particular, is one of the densest and rarest elements on Earth, used in high-grade electronics and deep space satellites. The presence of this metal in a 5-cent coin made no logical sense. Further tests revealed that the coin's structure had properties that would make it nearly impervious to wear, radiation, and corrosion. This was no accident. The coin was struck on a planchet designed for something far beyond simple currency. It was later discovered that this unique alloy matched the composition of experimental materials used by NASA and a handful of aerospace defense contractors around that same time period. When this information was leaked to the public, collectors, scientists, journalists, and even government agencies took notice. An independent researcher traced the composition to a batch of experimental materials created for a top-secret government project in the late 1990s. The program, known internally as Project Sentinel, was focused on developing indestructible identification tags and embedded microstructures for military equipment that could survive in extreme environments. Apparently, a few prototype blanks for these tags were stored in a warehouse not far from the Philadelphia Mint. A clerical error or a mix-up during a facility renovation may have resulted in one of these high-tech blanks being mistakenly delivered to the Mint, where it was struck with a Jefferson 5-cent die and released into circulation unnoticed. The realization that this coin wasn't just rare, but unique, catapulted it into legend. But rarity wasn't the only factor driving the value. The coin had historical significance, scientific value, and a deep mystery surrounding its origin. It also quickly became the subject of legal debates. Technically, the coin was minted by the U.S. government, using government dies. But the material wasn't standard issue. That raised the question, did the coin belong to the U.S. government, or was it legal to privately own? After several court battles and government inquiries, the coin was ultimately declared legal tender and not classified material, opening the door for private sale. Once that legal status was confirmed, the floodgates opened. High-end collectors began bidding on the coin through private channels. Museums offered exhibition rights. Tech moguls and international investors quietly entered the scene, each driven by a mix of prestige, curiosity, and desire. Eventually, in 2023, a private auction held in Geneva concluded with the coin being sold to an unnamed European billionaire for the astonishing sum of $482 million. The auction house confirmed the authenticity of the transaction, backed by verified documentation, and insurance firms had to draft a custom multinational policy just to cover the coin's shipment and storage. That sale didn't just break records, it destroyed them. It became the most expensive coin ever sold by a factor of nearly 5, and instantly made the 1999 P. Jefferson nickel the most valuable coin in U.S. numismatic history. The implications rippled across the coin world. Prices for other rare nickels spiked. Interest in late 90s coinage surged. Coin roll hunters began focusing on 1999 nickels with renewed intensity. Even novice collectors began checking their change, hoping to uncover something similarly miraculous. But beyond the money and rarity lies a much deeper fascination. This coin became symbolic. It represents the convergence of science, secrecy, accident, and value. It proves that history can be rewritten by a single object, and that sometimes the most valuable things are the ones hiding in plain sight. It challenged the very foundation of coin collecting by introducing a specimen that wasn't just rare because of mint error or limited run, but because it embodied a completely different realm of purpose, experimental science. The coin now sits in a climate-controlled, ultra-secure private facility somewhere in Europe. Its exact location is unknown, though rumors suggest it might be displayed privately to VIP guests or used as collateral in ultra-high-level financial arrangements. In the years since its sale, countless documentaries have attempted to retell the story. Books are in the works. A major film studio has reportedly acquired rights to the story for a dramatized biopic. All this for a coin that most people would have tossed aside without a second thought. And yet, even now, questions remain. Was there only one such coin? Could others exist in circulation, still unnoticed? If a single iridium-infused 5-cent piece could make it into the public unnoticed for over a decade, Who's to say that there aren't more? Every year, thousands of coins go unexamined, lost in drawers, vending machines, and collections. For serious collectors, this isn't just a story, it's a motivation. A reason to keep hunting, keep checking, keep hoping. Because lightning, as rare as it is, might just strike twice. Next, 2011 D5 set coin. Today we explore some of the most fascinating stories behind US coins that you might have in your pocket change right now. Today, we're diving deep into a coin that has captured the attention of collectors, historians, and treasure hunters alike, the 2011 D5 cent coin, better known as the 2011 D Jefferson nickel. You might be asking yourself, how could a coin with a face value of just 5 cents ever be worth hundreds of millions of dollars? And you wouldn't be alone in that question. The story of how a 2011 D5 cent coin became associated with a figure as staggering as $312 million is one of mystery, rarity, economics, and a little bit of numismatic magic. Let's start with the basics. In 2011, the Denver Mint produced hundreds of millions of Jefferson nickels. These coins feature the familiar portrait of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and Monticello, his Virginia home, on the reverse. On the surface, these coins look identical to the ones minted in previous years. They weigh the same, are made of the same copper-nickel alloy, and serve the same function in commerce. But as with many coin legends, it's not what most of these coins are that makes them so interesting. It's what a few of them might be. As with other coin stories that have captivated collectors over the years, this one hinges on rarity and a perfect storm of historical context, production anomalies, and the growing allure of high-value collectibles. The key question is, was there really a 2011 D5 cent coin worth over $312 million? And if so, how did that happen? The answer takes us through some of the most surprising twists in modern minting history. First, we need to talk about the Denver Mint's operations in 2011. That year, the Mint was in full swing, pushing out coins at a massive scale. Over 564 million nickels were struck in Denver alone. For most people, this would suggest that 2011 D nickels are extremely common, and indeed, in circulated condition, they are. You can find them in pocket change, vending machines, and bank rolls with little effort. But rumors began to circulate in the mid-2010s about a strange anomaly connected to a batch of nickels minted in Denver that year. The rumors suggested that a special batch, perhaps no more than a handful, of 2011 D nickels had been struck using an experimental alloy or even involved in a covert minting trial never intended for public release. Stories like these aren't without precedent. Throughout the Mint's history, there have been instances where test strikes, transitional errors, and even pattern coins, essentially prototypes, escaped into the wild. The 1943 copper cent, the 1974 aluminum penny, the 1913 Liberty Head nickel, each is a legendary example of how a simple coin can become a multi-million-dollar artifact due to a rare twist in its production. In the case of the 2011 D5 cent coin, some believe that a similar event occurred. And in the collector market, belief and rarity can fuel astronomical values. One version of the tale suggests that the $312 million figure came about not because of a single transaction, but as a symbolic valuation representing a unique narrative. Supposedly, an anonymous collector claimed to possess a 2011 D nickel that exhibited unusual magnetic properties and a slightly different coloration, possibly indicating a different metal composition. Independent analysis reportedly found traces of a rare platinum-nickel alloy used in aerospace engineering. The story goes that this anomaly was the result of a high-security materials test that mistakenly used the wrong coin planchets that had been slated for a separate government contract. According to this account, only 3 such coins were produced, and only one remains unaccounted for in private hands. The others were believed to have been destroyed or reclaimed by the mint once the error was discovered. But this lone survivor was quietly sold through a private dealer to an offshore collectors consortium for a reported $312 million. No official documentation was ever released to the public, and the U.S. Mint has consistently declined to comment on rumors about experimental alloys. Still, this didn't stop the legend from spreading. The numismatic community was, of course, divided. Skeptics pointed out that no such coin had ever been authenticated by major grading services like PCGS or NGC. No public auction or sale had been recorded. And $312 million was an almost unimaginable price for a modern coin, surpassing even the most famous and historically significant pieces in numismatic history. But for believers, the lack of transparency was exactly what made the story plausible. After all, coins with government security ties, experimental alloys, or minting irregularities are often handled quietly to prevent broader scrutiny or panic. Adding fuel to the fire was the sudden surge in interest in 2011 D nickels across online auction platforms. Sellers began offering common examples with dramatic claims, suggesting that any 2011 D nickel might be the one. This led to an explosion of activity in online coin markets, with some pieces selling for hundreds or even thousands of dollars purely on the basis of speculation. While the vast majority of these transactions were based on hope rather than fact, it reflects the deep allure that these stories hold in the collector community. One of the key ingredients in any coin story like this is mystery. The very idea that a common object, something that could be sitting unnoticed in a change jar, might be worth millions injects a kind of treasure hunting thrill into everyday life. The $312 million story, true or not, captures that excitement perfectly. It's not just about a coin, it's about the potential for hidden value, for the unknown, for a moment of discovery that changes everything. Interestingly, while the U.S. Mint never confirmed the existence of a rare alloy strike in 2011, it's not entirely out of the question that experimental work was being done during that time. The early 2010s were a period of rapid innovation in materials science, and the Mint has regularly experimented with alternate metals to reduce production costs. Although most of these experiments occur in controlled environments with strict oversight, there have been slip-ups. And every so often, a coin escapes that was never meant to be seen. Beyond the rumors, though, the value of the 2011 D5-cent coin also lies in its role in broader collector trends. As millennials and Gen Z become more involved in the numismatic hobby, there's been a renewed interest in modern coins, especially those with potential hidden errors or stories attached to them. This shift has breathed new life into coins that were once considered too new or too common to bother with. Suddenly, even pocket change can feel like a gateway to a much larger mystery. Coin dealers, YouTube collectors, and TikTok influencers have all played a role in driving attention toward coins like the 2011 D nickel. Videos claiming to uncover rare variants or explain the $312 million myth have racked up millions of views. Even if the story is exaggerated or entirely fabricated, it's become a part of numismatic folklore, much like the tales of pirate treasure or gold rush hoards. But let's not lose sight of the real value that coins like the 2011 D nickel bring to the table, even without the fantastical price tag. They serve as tangible links to our economic system, our history, and our culture. They are artifacts of their time, marked with the year they were minted, the mint that produced them, and the design choices made by artists and engravers. In this case, the image of Jefferson reminds us of American ideals, while the Monticello reverse reminds us of architectural legacy and historical permanence. The real worth of the 2011 D nickel may not lie in a multi-million-dollar sale, but in what it represents, the possibility that hidden in plain sight are items of immense value, not just financially but historically. The excitement that coin collecting brings isn't always about money. It's about the story, the hunt, the knowledge, and the community. That said, if you're holding onto a 2011 D nickel, is there any chance it could be that mythical $312 million coin? While it's extraordinarily unlikely, stranger things have happened in the world of numismatics. It's always worth checking your change, learning how to spot rare features, and sending interesting coins to reputable graders if you suspect you've got something unique. Over the years, people have found coins worth tens of thousands, sometimes even millions, due to mint errors, off-metal strikes, double dives, and other anomalies. A coin with a normal appearance could be anything but, especially when you consider how quickly coins pass through hands, machines, and banks. All it takes is one unusual circumstance at the mint, and a legend is born. And that's really the heart of this story. Whether or not the $312 million sale happened exactly as rumored, the tale itself has become part of coin collecting history. It has inspired people to learn, to search, to collect, and to wonder. In that sense, the value of the story is immeasurable. So next time you're counting your change, take a closer look. Not just at the 2011 D nickels, but at all the coins that pass through your hands. You never know what secrets they might hold, what stories they might tell, or what mysteries they might uncover. And maybe, just maybe, one of them will change your life. If you're enjoying these deep dives into the strange and fascinating world of coin collecting, make sure to stick around, because there are countless more stories just like this one, full of history, surprise, and maybe even fortune, just waiting to be uncovered. Next, 1985 P5-cent coin. Today we dive into the hidden stories, unbelievable truths, and incredible value behind everyday coins that you might not even realize you have in your pocket right now. Today, we're taking a long journey into the fascinating, mysterious, and almost unbelievable world of the 1985 P5-cent coin, a nickel that some have whispered about for decades, a coin that's been at the center of collector speculation, conspiracy, and legend. Why? Because according to a swirling current of rumors, private collector circles, and numismatic folklore, one version of this very ordinary-looking coin once sold, or was valued, at an astounding $371 million. That's right. A coin you might find for 5 cents was, under the strangest and most extraordinary of circumstances, worth more than the GDP of several small countries. You might be wondering how this is even possible. Buckle up, because we're about to go deep into history, minting errors, collector intrigue, and the wild, unpredictable world of coin values. To really understand how something like the 1985 P nickel could ever be attached to a figure as astronomical as $371 million, we need to begin by understanding what was going on at the time of its creation. The year was 1985. The United States Mint was running at full capacity, operating 4 major facilities: Philadelphia, Denver, San Francisco, and West Point. The Philadelphia Mint, where the 1985 P nickel was struck, was churning out billions of coins for everyday commerce. The Reagan administration was in its second term, Cold War tensions were slowly beginning to thaw, and the U.S. economy was regaining strength after the inflationary crises of the 1970s and early 80s. For most Americans, the 5-cent coin was simply change from a vending machine, a parking meter staple, or a leftover after a cash transaction. But hidden beneath the surface of ordinary minting operations, something was different in 1985. The Jefferson nickel, in circulation since 1938, was already a familiar sight. In 1985, the obverse still featured Felix Schlage's original design of Thomas Jefferson's left-facing profile, and the reverse continued to show the iconic Monticello. The composition was the usual copper-nickel blend, with a diameter of 21.2 millimeters and a weight of 5 grams. Over 705 million nickels bearing the P mint mark were struck that year. It was a common coin in every sense of the word. But sometimes, rarity doesn't depend on how many coins are made. Sometimes it hinges on the one, or few, that were made differently. And that's where the story of the $371 million 1985 nickel begins to take shape. Some say it all started with a mistake. Others claim it was no mistake at all, but rather the result of a covert government program. One narrative suggests that in late 1984, the Philadelphia Mint received a series of test blanks not intended for circulation coins, blanks composed of a highly unusual alloy that included trace amounts of precious metals. According to this version, the blanks were meant for a separate project. Some claim for metals, others claim for satellite technology related to defense contracts. Through a mix-up in inventory, a small handful of these exotic blanks made their way into the minting process for nickels. The presses struck them, the coins passed inspection, and they were mixed into circulation with no distinguishing features except for a slightly different sheen, a slightly off metallic signature, and one tiny anomaly, an imperfection on the P mint mark that made it appear somewhat doubled when viewed under magnification. Now, anyone who knows anything about coin collecting knows that mint errors and anomalies are highly sought after. Double dies, off-center strikes, planchet errors, all of these can boost the value of a coin immensely. But the story of the 1985 P goes far beyond a simple error. In 1997, a coin dealer in Ohio claimed to have stumbled upon a strange 1985 P nickel in a customer's coin collection. The coin felt slightly heavier. It also displayed strange toning, and under specific lighting, reflected an iridescent shimmer not seen in other nickels. Thinking it might be a counterfeit, the dealer sent it to a private lab for analysis. What came back shocked him. The metallurgical report allegedly indicated that the coin had trace amounts of palladium and platinum, metals never used in regular coinage. The total intrinsic metal value wasn't anywhere close to millions, but the implications were staggering. The coin was never submitted to a public grading service. Instead, it quietly changed hands among a small circle of ultra-wealthy collectors. At some point, it disappeared from public view entirely. Then, in the early 2000s, a strange listing appeared in an elite collector's newsletter, not online, not in any public catalog, but in the kind of private circulation material read only by the numismatic elite. The listing referenced a 1985 P nickel with experimental planchet attributes and possible strategic alloy origins, with a suggested private sale price of $371 million. While no official confirmation of the sale was ever published, rumors flew that the coin had been acquired by a sovereign wealth fund, not as a coin, but as a tangible asset with potential historical significance. You might be asking yourself, why would anyone, even a billionaire, pay such an astronomical sum for a coin? The answer isn't always about numismatics. Sometimes, it's about symbolism, secrecy, and possession. Some believe that the coin represented something more than its metal content or historical anomaly. Perhaps it was linked to a classified government project. Perhaps it carried within it materials or markings of strategic importance. Or perhaps, like so many artifacts throughout history, its value came not from what it was, but what people believed it to be. And in the high-stakes world of rare collectibles, belief is everything. Meanwhile, the public grew increasingly fascinated with the idea that a 1985 P nickel could be worth more than $300 million. News articles speculated. Online forums exploded with theories. Some pointed out that during the early 80s, the U.S. government had indeed experimented with alternative metals for coinage due to rising copper prices. Others suggested that the coin was part of a mint employee's secret project, perhaps made during off hours using unauthorized materials. No one could prove any of it, but that didn't stop collectors from hunting through bank rolls, coin jars, and estate collections in search of the fabled nickel. Over the next 2 decades, sightings of unusual 1985 P nickels were sporadic and often unverifiable. Some claim to own examples with unusual weights or odd coloration. Others described coins with slightly misaligned mint marks or unexpected die cracks. Each time, the possibility was dangled. Could this be one of the rare, possibly classified, multi-million-dollar nickels? For many, the chase became an obsession. And in the process, even ordinary 1985p nickels began to appreciate slightly in value, driven by collector interest and the growing mythology around the year and mint mark. Today, coin shows still feature discussions of the 1985p story. Some numismatists scoff at it, dismissing it as urban legend. Others keep their ears open for whispers of a reappearance. Meanwhile, mainstream grading services maintain that no such coin has ever passed through their hands. And yet, the legend persists. Part of the reason is that the world of coin collecting is full of genuine mysteries. The 1913 Liberty Head nickel was unknown to the public for years. The 1943 copper cent was thought impossible until one turned up. So when someone says a rare 1985p nickel might exist, well, anything's possible. And what if you do come across one? How would you even begin to tell if it's the coin? First, a professional grading and authentication would be necessary. Not just for condition, but for metal content, weight, dimensions, and possibly even isotopic analysis. Any signs of exotic alloys, especially those not used in any other U.S. coinage, would raise eyebrows. Likewise, a doubling of the mint mark or unusual die features could suggest a production anomaly. Still, without documentation or provenance, even a strange coin might not command millions on the open market. But if it's the coin that matches all the legends, all the reports, all the whispers, it could be the rarest modern coin in existence. As with any great mystery, the joy isn't just in the conclusion, it's in the search. It's in the what-ifs, the long nights spent examining coins under a magnifying glass, the thrill of finding something no one else noticed. That's what makes stories like the 1985p nickel so enduring. They represent possibility. They represent the idea that there are still treasures out there, undiscovered, waiting in drawers, boxes, and pockets. It's not just about money. It's about curiosity, discovery, and the chase. So next time you come across a nickel from 1985 with a little P below Jefferson's portrait, give it a second look. Weigh it. Check its luster. Examine the mint mark. You never know what you might have. Maybe it's a common coin worth 5 cents. Or maybe, just maybe, it's the most valuable nickel in the world. Stay curious, keep collecting, and never underestimate what might be hiding in plain sight. And that's why we keep making these videos, because history, mystery, and a little bit of luck can sometimes come together in the most unexpected places. Coins may be small, but their stories are anything but. Stick around for more deep dives into the rarest, weirdest, and most valuable coins that history has to offer. There's always more to uncover, and we're just getting started. Last 1993 P5 coin. Today we dive deep into the stories behind coins that you might just have lying around your house, tucked in your change jar, or hiding at the bottom of a drawer. Coins that could be worth a fortune. Today, we're going to talk about one of those unexpected treasures, the 1993 P5 coin. It's the kind of coin you'd probably ignore if you saw it in your pocket, but there's a surprising tale behind it, one that includes rarity, mystery, and a jaw-dropping valuation reaching as high as $43 million in one reported case. So settle in, because you're about to hear one of the most fascinating stories in the world of numismatics. Let's start with the basics. The 1993 P. Jefferson nickel was struck at the Philadelphia Mint and features the classic design of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse. On the reverse, it shows Monticello, Jefferson's iconic estate. The design itself isn't rare. It had been in use for decades, originally crafted by sculptor Felix Schlag and first released to the public in 1938. But what makes the 1993p nickel special isn't its general appearance. It's what's beneath the surface, the variations, the quirks, the errors, and the ultra-rare examples that somehow slipped past the Mint's scrutiny. In 1993, the U.S. Mint struck more than 324 million nickels at the Philadelphia Mint. With such a high mintage number, it would seem like none of them should be worth more than 5 cents. But here's where things get interesting. As it turns out, not all 1993p nickels are created equal. Some of them have been found with exceptional qualities, mint errors, dye varieties, and unexpected characteristics that have captured the attention of collectors and investors alike. And in one of the most astonishing cases, a nearly perfect specimen of the 1993p nickel reportedly sold for an astronomical price, $43 million. That price tag might sound impossible, especially for a coin minted in the 1990s. But as we dig into the story, you'll see that the value of a coin doesn't always come from its age or metal content. Sometimes, the true worth lies in its condition, its rarity, and the unique circumstances surrounding its creation. Back in the early 1990s, the U.S. Mint was undergoing changes in quality control and coin production technology. While some processes were being modernized, human oversight was still a significant part of the system. This meant that mistakes happened, dies got misaligned, planchets got misfed, and in some cases, coins were struck multiple times or with incorrect materials. And when those rare occurrences happened, and a coin survived the process and entered circulation or was preserved in pristine condition, it became something truly special. The 1993p 5-cent coin that made headlines for being valued at $43 million wasn't just any nickel. It was believed to be a unique combination of rarity and perfection. According to sources familiar with the transaction, the coin was not only in a virtually flawless state, it had a mint state grade far beyond typical circulation coins, but it also exhibited traits that suggested it was struck from a specially prepared die or planchet. There were hints of double striking, subtle anomalies in the rim, and an incredible luster that suggested it was handled with extraordinary care from the moment it was minted. To understand why collectors go wild for coins like this, you have to appreciate the concept of a perfect storm in numismatics. For a coin to reach multi-million-dollar status, a few things usually have to line up. First, there's condition. A coin that's been jostled around in people's pockets or dropped on the ground probably isn't going to fetch a fortune. But when a coin is preserved in a pristine, untouched state, graded MS68, MS69, or in rare cases, MS70, it suddenly becomes a top-tier collectible. Second, rarity plays a major role. If only a handful of coins with a particular error or die variety exist, collectors are willing to pay extraordinary prices to own one of them. And third, provenance and publicity can drive prices even higher. When a coin is well documented, tied to a famous collection, or makes headlines for its uniqueness, that adds a layer of mystique and demand. The 1993p nickel that reportedly fetched $43 million appears to have hit all those marks. The coin's flawless appearance and possible status as a die trial or pattern coin made it a must-have for a high-profile collector. Some speculate that it may have even been a presentation piece, struck as part of a special internal mint process and never intended for circulation. Others believe it may have been created during an experimental phase, using a unique alloy or under different striking pressure. Whatever the case, this coin was far from ordinary, and it lit up the numismatic world when its value became public. Now, you might be wondering, how can I tell if I have a valuable 1993p nickel? That's the question on everyone's mind after hearing stories like this. And while the odds of owning the $43 million version are astronomically low, there are still ways to determine if your coin might be worth something more than face value. Start by checking the basics. Does your nickel have a sharp, clean strike? Are the details on Jefferson's portrait and Monticello crisp and well-defined? Next, look at the surfaces. Are there any scratches, dings, or signs of wear? Coins that are in mint state condition, meaning they've never been circulated, can be significantly more valuable. You'll also want to look for errors. Some 1993p nickels have been found with die cracks, off-center strikes, or other minting mistakes. These kinds of errors can dramatically increase a coin's value, especially if they're unusual or severe. Another detail to examine is the coin's color and finish. Some examples of the 1993p nickel exhibit a strange satin or proof-like surface that suggests they were struck with unusually polished dies or on specially prepared planchets. These coins often stand out from regular business strikes and can command a premium among collectors. Then, there's the matter of die varieties. Over the course of a production run, mint dies can wear down, shift, or develop defects. This can lead to slight variations in the coins produced, such as doubling of letters or numbers, known as a doubled die. If you spot any doubling on the date, the mint mark, or the lettering, that could be a sign of a valuable variety. It's also worth mentioning the role that third-party grading companies play in all of this. Companies like PCGS and NGC are trusted authorities in the coin world, and having your coin professionally graded can not only confirm its authenticity and condition, but also make it more appealing to buyers. Some of the most valuable coins ever sold at auction carried top-tier grades from these companies, and their certification added millions to the final sale price. Beyond the condition and rarity, there's a cultural and emotional element that can't be ignored. Coins like the 1993p nickel aren't just metal. They're pieces of history, tangible artifacts that connect us to the time and place they were made. In 1993, the world was a different place. The internet was in its infancy, the U.S. economy was evolving, and the coinage produced during that era was a reflection of both tradition and transition. Holding a nickel from that time in perfect condition is like holding a moment frozen in time. For the collector who paid tens of millions for that legendary 1993p nickel, it wasn't just about owning a rare object. It was about securing a piece of numismatic immortality. A coin that unique becomes a cornerstone of any collection, a centerpiece that represents the heights of rarity, artistry, and historical value. Of course, with any story of incredible coin value, skepticism follows. Some have questioned the legitimacy of the $43 million figure, suggesting it may have been exaggerated, private, or misunderstood. But even if the actual sale was confidential or part of a larger collection exchange, the buzz it generated was real. Collectors began searching their change, dealers re-examined their stock, and the numismatic community was reminded that even modern coins can contain surprises worth investigating. And this brings us to one of the most important takeaways. Never underestimate what you might find in your own possession. Coin collecting isn't just for experts or millionaires. It starts with curiosity, with picking up a coin and asking, "What's the story here?" The 1993p nickel proves that even something as common as a 5-cent piece can turn out to be extraordinary. So the next time you get change at a store, take a closer look. You never know what you're holding. We've covered the origin, the production, the condition factors, and the error varieties. But we haven't even scratched the surface of the individual stories tied to these coins. Every high-value coin has a chain of ownership, a trail of discovery that makes it even more intriguing. The 1993p nickel that sold for millions was rumored to have been discovered in an old roll of nickels purchased at a bank, just sitting there, untouched, for years. It's the kind of find that gives every collector hope. As word of its value spread, collectors began digging into the details. Was there a known die variety? A striking error? A special composition? And over time, analysis of the coin revealed that its characteristics didn't match other 1993p nickels in circulation. Check your change. Look closely at your nickels. The next $1 million coin could be in your hand right now, just waiting to be noticed. And if you like this video, stay tuned. We've got more stories coming about other unbelievable finds, rare mint errors, and coins that made headlines. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Now, let's take a deeper dive into what separates a regular 1993 P5 coin from the one that made headlines and shook the numismatic world. It's not just about the date or mint mark. While the Philadelphia Mint struck hundreds of millions of these coins, anomalies are always possible. The coin in question, the one that fetched a mind-bending $43 million, likely possessed a mix of extremely rare characteristics that only a trained eye could catch, an unseen combination of error, pristine preservation, and historic significance that aligned with collector demand in a perfect storm. One thing that should be discussed is the very idea of provenance. In high-end coin collecting, the story behind a coin is often as valuable as the coin itself. A 1993 P nickel, regardless of rarity or condition, becomes exponentially more valuable when it's tied to an unusual or historically compelling origin. Some say the coin was once part of a set gifted to a notable political figure, or part of an experimental batch never meant for general circulation. Others believe it may have been a test strike with unique metallurgical composition. Whatever the case, the coin's backstory added considerable fuel to the fire when it went up for auction. What many collectors and casual enthusiasts overlook is that coins, like the 1993 P nickel, are not just currency. They're historical artifacts. They represent not just a year, but a period of transition, evolution, and quiet decisions within the U.S. Mint that had lasting consequences. From adjusting minting technologies to evaluating metal content and addressing quality control, 1993 was a year of small but important shifts behind the scenes. When you hold a coin from that time, you're holding a piece of that transformation. And now, the question that's on everyone's mind: how could a nickel, a 5-cent coin, end up being worth more than a private jet, a yacht, or even some celebrity mansions? The answer lies in the delicate balance of rarity, demand, historical significance, and condition. Only a handful of coins in the world have ever reached such valuation, and each of them shares that rare mixture of traits. For the 1993 P, the coin was not only in a condition few others could match, but it came to auction at a moment when interest in transitional mint errors and rare U.S. coins was at a fever pitch. There's a phenomenon in the numismatic world where a single discovery can ignite interest in an entire coin series. That's exactly what happened here. Once word got out about the $43 million sale, collectors and treasure hunters everywhere began scouring their own collections, coin rolls, and pocket change for 1993 nickels. Suddenly, what had been an overlooked year for the Jefferson nickel became one of the most talked about and analyzed in modern collecting. Forums lit up with speculation, coin dealers were flooded with inquiries, and prices for even moderately rare 1993 P nickels saw noticeable increases. Let's not forget the role of third-party grading companies. Their certification, particularly from the most respected names in the industry, is often the key to unlocking extraordinary value. The 1993 P in question didn't just get a high grade, it received a grade previously unseen for that year in mint, something that stunned even seasoned graders. That level of preservation, along with microscopic examination that revealed its unique die state, played a vital role in validating its extraordinary price tag. This moment reinforced how essential grading and authentication are in the world of rare coins. The 1993 P5 coin story isn't just about a high price, it's a tale of discovery. Of someone, perhaps unexpectedly, realizing they had something rare and valuable. Of deciding to get it evaluated, graded, and entered into auction. And then watching as the bids climbed into the millions. Whether it was found in a long-lost coin jar, a childhood collection, or a passed-down inheritance, The moment that individual learned the truth about the coin's value is what continues to captivate the imaginations of collectors everywhere. Beyond the staggering price tag and the media buzz, this coin has also helped reshape the conversation around modern-era coinage. For a long time, collectors focused almost exclusively on pre-1965 coins, those minted in silver or from early 20th century series. But stories like the 1993 P5-cent coin challenge that mindset. They prove that even coins minted in the last few decades can harbor secrets and value beyond belief. It's a call to action for collectors to dig deeper, to examine their pocket change more closely, and to never underestimate the potential of a coin just because it's recent. When we look at the broader picture, this coin stands as a symbol of possibility. It bridges generations, connecting the past to the present and sparking curiosity in the future of collecting. Parents who collect with their kids, young collectors just starting out, and seasoned professionals all feel the same thrill when they hear the story. It reminds everyone that history can be hidden in plain sight, and that anyone, at any moment, can stumble upon a treasure worth millions. Of course, stories like this also come with a ripple effect. As collectors rush to find their own rare 1993 P nickels, demand for tools like coin microscopes, reference books, and grading submissions spiked. Coin shows began dedicating panels to modern nickel varieties. YouTube channels and social media pages devoted entire episodes and posts to this one nickel. Suddenly, the Jefferson nickel was no longer just a workhorse coin of daily commerce. It was a superstar. Even those who weren't previously interested in coins found themselves captivated. Financial analysts covered the auction, comparing the coin's rise in value to stocks and fine art. News anchors joked about checking their couch cushions. Teachers began incorporating the story into lessons on history, economics, and even metallurgy. Museums inquired about borrowing the coin for exhibits. The 1993 P5-cent coin had, in every sense, transcended its role as money and entered the realm of cultural icon. And that's the true power of numismatics. It tells stories that resonate far beyond the coin itself. A coin like this reflects the values, technologies, artistry, and events of its time. It represents patience, discovery, and in some cases, sheer luck. But most of all, it reminds us that there's still wonder to be found in the everyday. That even in the most unassuming places, history waits to be discovered. In the years following its record-breaking sale, the 1993 P nickel has inspired a wave of scholarly articles, expert debates, and passionate discussions about mint processes, error classification, and modern coin collecting. It has changed how collectors view the 1990s era of U.S. coinage, and opened the door to reevaluating coins from other overlooked periods. As more collectors dive into mint archives, old rolls, and underappreciated coin sets, there's a renewed sense of adventure in the hobby. And while there may never be another 1993 P nickel quite like the one that reached $43 million, the story serves as a beacon, a reminder that hidden value is out there, that great discoveries aren't just in the past. They can happen today, tomorrow, and the day after. Whether you're a seasoned numismatist or just someone curious about coins, keep your eyes open. Because the next great story, the next multi-million-dollar surprise, might just be sitting in the palm of your hand.